I think the AV is getting worked on to be online, or it's ready. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly go over. I don't see a lot of newcomers in the audience, but just quickly the ground rules or how we're organized this evening. General Council members have 30 seconds to ask their question directly. The candidates have 1 minute to answer. We have 2 timekeepers up front. I'm going to walk around and hand the mic to folks who want to ask a question. I'm going to do my best to get everyone who wants to ask a question, 1 question first. And then if there is, I guess, leftover time, you can go seconds and have another question. We're learning as we go. We realized that it was really nice to have folks to have 1 question and each candidate answer that. So we might be able to do more of that during this session. We'll conclude at 7 o'clock for 55 minutes. We'll conclude this group at 7 o'clock. So we already had an invocation to start the meeting, so we're good there for the evening. And I will let the candidates will give 1 minute introduction of themselves. And you won't see Malvin's information in the packet, the survey, so he'll do his best to cover his desires for candidacy during the questions. We'll start the 1 minute at this end. So you can introduce yourself. You can use that mic.
Hello. Okay, go. Thank you, everybody, for letting me be here today. Kyle McGuire, XJ, or X1587, excuse my nerves. Penaquili Lollywood is a Umatilla name that was given to me by Inez Reeves. It's practice to be myself. Kathleen Gordon was there as well, and she says it's reflecting. It's what I reflects back onto me. And those 2 translations have been helping me out with me through the struggles of life, which everybody else, I'm sure, has the same. I was raised in Fairview, Oregon, just east side of Portland. My mother, Violet McGuire, enrolled here. My father, Brian McGuire, Irish. Is it the warning time to wrap it up? Well, thank you for letting me get that much in.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sierra Quimps. My Indian name is Semkawethla, and I'm an enrolled member here at the CTUIR. I am married to Logan Quimps, and together we have 2 children, Hazel and Elton. And I just wanted to use my introduction to say thank you to all of you for being here. Thank you for Nikiawe Forward for having this forum for all of us, because it's important for us and for our community to know who we all are and who they're potentially going to vote for. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate Nikiawe Forward for allowing me the opportunity to come up and be a part of this forum. My name's Malvin Jameson III. My enrollment number is X890. I am the grandson of Louis McFarland and Ruby McFarland. My mom was Lois Broncho. I've worked for the state hospital for like 30 years. So I've got a lot of experience advocating for people with developmental disabilities, which also goes over into my service that I've had on the Elders Advisory Committee. Been serving as the vice chairman for them for the past couple of years. I'm a hunter, I'm a fisherman, I'm culturally active, and I'm ready to serve you guys. Thank you.
Tatskalawat. My Indian name is Clean and means golden eagle. And I'm grateful to all that nominated me. I'm Lloyd Wanasee Commander, X1142. And thank you to Nikiawe Ford and all of you folks here tonight. My mother was Atwe Lita Wanasee Lavador. I have my father was Leo Hoptawit from the Yakama Nation, and he passed away in the 60s. My mom had 12 kids, and there's several here that live here. And my mother, her dad was Lloyd Wanasee, and I was born Lloyd Wanasee. And my grandfather was nephew to Anna Minthorn Wanasee. And my time's up. All right, thank you very much.
Inishwanisha Najonia Toledo. My name is Najonia Toledo, and my mother is Brandy Dunphy, and my great-grandmother was Joan Burnside. I'm running for Board of Trustees member at large, and I am a proud enrolled member of the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation, and I'm 21 years old. I'm a mother and an artist and an activist for our people, and I thank you all for coming here today to listen to me, and I want to excuse my tardiness. I was at the Confluence meeting up at Temestalik, and thank you all for listening and being here. Hatsaya.
We're ready to go into the questions from our general council members. If anybody has a question they'd like to kick off, raise your hand, please.
Andrea Hall, X1109. I'm just going to repeat my question to the last session is, what is your number one priority? I know we have a lot of things that we care about, but if you had a number one, what would it be? Yes.
Thanks again for that question. I'm here for a job. I would like to be hired by the Umatilla tribe. I'd like to serve for you. I learn fast, honest, responsible, and I'd like to be the candidate-elect. My health is my wealth, and our future is with respect to each other. And being in this chair, I feel like I can uphold that for us. And in turn, I could receive it. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. For me, this is something that I've thought a lot about, and I know one thing that comes to mind first and foremost is protecting our treaty rights. In the current administration federally, we are under attack, and I would like to make sure that we steadfast in our treaty rights and holding the state and the federal accountable.
Yeah, as a hunter and fisherman, I'm really a big advocate for our hunting and fishing, all our treaty rights, our gathering rights, the places that we go to throughout our history. But aside from that, I think I really would like to be like a tribal employee advocate. I want to see what we can do to help tribal employees be more successful, what we can do to, bring them up and advance careers. What are we doing? Why, we suffer so many times with people that don't work out. How can we get those people to succeed? Bolster's been one step that's been in that direction, but I think there's probably other avenues that we can go to continue to improve tribal employment success. Thank you.
My number one concern as a candidate is to make sure that every tribal voice is heard and that nobody feels unsafe to share their opinions due to either nepotism or lateral oppression, and that every tribal member, no matter what your last name is, who you are, and where you come from, you will be heard and your opinion is heard. Amongst the tribal board of trustees, and I want to make it so that us as tribal board of trustees are held accountable and that we know for sure that we work for the tribal members and not the other way around. And I just want to say that I also am concerned for the drug problem out here on the reservation, and that's one thing I want to ensure that our attention is pointed towards as a tribe, that we help our tribal members who are struggling with alcohol addiction and drug addiction. Thank you.
Hello. I believe my top priority would be the area of education. I've served about 30 years in the field of education. I taught at a Native American Bible College 6 years and became education director 7 years in 1997 when all the plans were starting to continue to develop Nick Yahweh School and where it was going to go and who was going to be there, young kids, middle school or high school. We have a high school, and that's great, and I've seen it develop. It's been a terrific experience to see, and I'd like to see our vulnerable students, I think are the most vulnerable, are the middle school. They have a lot of issues in town and at other schools. Thank you.
Great. And I'll have Boots go ask his question.
Thank you. Boots Pond, X1934. This is a question for everyone going down the line from Lloyd to Kyle. So when it comes to the alcohol sales at Arrowhead, where do you lean on that issue there? And what were your thoughts on the board decision last summer on that issue?
I didn't hear the last part,
The alcohol sales, where do you lean on that? And what were your thoughts on the board's decision on that last summer?
I grew up in the Dalles and away from the tribe, and I had lots of issues growing up myself in A&D, and I believe I'm not for selling alcohol. I've been clean and sober from drugs and alcohol 43 years, and it took a lot of counseling, and it took a lot of meetings and support from others in different cities, different states, to get me clean and sober. And I thank God for helping me as well. And that would be a close second for me to help folks. I've seen nephews and nieces and other family members go down through drugs and alcohol, and I would like to, I'd say no to sales, and I would disagree with any, and I said no to sales way back when we first had that question. Thanks.
To answer your question, I do not agree on alcohol sales out here on the reservation. There's too many tribal members and tribal youth who struggle with alcohol. And as a tribal youth who once would drink alcohol, it was way too easy to get our hands on something like that. And it would be even more easier if it's up here at our local gas station up at Arrowhead. And I feel like it's too close to home. Yes, you could drive 15 minutes to Pendleton and get it, but still, we should not make it easier for our youth and our young adults to get a hold of alcohol. And with the issues with alcoholism out here, I don't think it's a good idea, and I would not agree to sell alcohol on the reservation. Thank you.
Yeah, I know there's not any of us out here that haven't been affected by alcohol and drugs. You know, I grew up with it. Never knew whether the parents were going to make it home on Friday or Saturday night. You know, we ended up in a lot of different places, and you know, alcohol wasn't a good thing, and it didn't matter, I guess, that wherever it was sold, they still got it. You know, myself, I don't drink. It's not my path. But I was glad to see the board. I think the second part of your question, Boots, was how do you feel about the decision they made? I think they did the best they can, but I'm glad to see that it's actually going to the people for the vote. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. For me, I don't agree that we should be selling alcohol at Arrowhead. I know that it's a revenue stream for us, but I think that there are other ways that we can create more revenue. And to protect our people, I think it's best that we don't sell alcohol on a reservation, or especially at Arrowhead. Thank you.
I'm not privy to their discussions on the topic of sales at Arrowhead or Mission Market, or what they've been doing in the Board of Trustees level. The topic is big enough that people have choices to consume, to purchase where they choose in this day and life. So again, with our thoughts, if it's business there oriented, then yes, there could be a choice of something other than. So it's really up to the managers that I guess we've hired, or people that we've put in charge to create this revenue that we can share. If we're not using it, we don't need to purchase it. If we see a gathering of the causes again, that's where we went wrong. Thank you.
Levon, question?
Hi, Levon Herrera, X1176. This year when I did the petition, I did my first petition, and I was going through the tribal housing, and I couldn't get enough signatures. Every house I went to was Yakima or some other tribal reservation Indian member. So I had to go to the family picnic, and if it wasn't for the picnic, a lot of us, even Mr. Quimps and Lisa and those people, were all there getting signatures. So, I mean, how are you going to try to resolve that issue with those houses were built for us tribal members, not for Yakima to come over? You know, there's so many Yakimas now that I'm waiting for, you know, my own house.
Can we clarify what is the exact question?
Well, the clarification is, you know, I went to tribal houses in Mission Creek, and everyone, oh, I'm not tribal, I can't sign. You know, how do you guys plan on trying to keep our houses for us tribal members first, like the federal law states, that, you know, this is what the laws are, instead of, you know, all the Yakimas coming over and living in our houses now because it's, you know, so cheap. I mean, there's got to be some kind of solution.
Since I have the mic. Thank you for that question. Hypothetically, I want to be everywhere too, but I can't. And people want to be around us. We're people that people want to be around. So opening that up to allow friendly gatherings is where we're at, and we still need to be out there doing it. I've been to the same probably doors with others, and I want to thank my friend that went out to ask the community for signatures, and that's Kathleen Kerwin, and she's a returning tribal member that is finding it hard to be in the community as well. So embracing each other for what we have today is what we have is today. So let's be happy and smile.
Thank you for your question. That's a concern that I also share, because I think a lot of our housing is going to other tribal members of other places. And so I think if we could be able to revisit the policies, revisit the eligibility for those with the Housing Commission is probably the first place to start, and giving more to that point system in the housing application for our own tribal members would be beneficial. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're gonna have to it have to be brought up with the Housing Commission, see what the policies are and stuff, how they're outlined and how they're graded as far as prioritizing tenants. And I totally agree. Our Umatilla CTUIR members should be prioritized. I don't know that we could actually be moving other tribal members from other places out, being they're already in. But I think that moving forward, we'd have to make sure that, you know, we're doing our best we can to house our own CTUIR members. Thank you.
I was actually prepared for a question like this, so I kind of wrote down in my notes. I think the use CTR sovereignty to define service area and primary beneficiaries. CTR can assess its rights to define its own service. The tribe can designate that housing built or managed by CTR is primarily intended to serve its own citizens first. And the action, I say that update CTR's Indian housing plan and annual performance to reflect this priority. This makes the policy clear for HUD compliance while honoring CTR sovereignty, and I think that's one way we could go about it as a tribe. Thank you.
Thank you. Good question. Hey, I'm also on the list. I'm waiting. Hey, I go war hoop around. Say, I think it starts. It could start at the Housing Commission, and then look at their policies and procedures. Maybe have a review. But I was. Early, I was one of the first in Mission Creek. We got in a brand new place, and I was very fortunate for that in 1997. Anyway, I think expanding more affordable housing places, it's great to have a place where you can purchase, but we need more housing, it sounds like, and look at the policies and check it out. Thank you.
Any questions?
Hello, my name's DRC Abraham. I have a question. I am on the farm committee, and we are trying to get to a point where we have like 4 acres or maybe more, but start up an experiment area where we are starting conservation practices, so prior to using them in the field, to lessen pesticide and herbicide uses, and also growing whole foods for seniors and children. I would like to know if I support that, and if you guys were voted in, if you'd be willing to move forward with that, if we brought that to you. Thank you.
Just the last part again. What is your question?
Oh, if we ended up going to the board to bring up this issue, if you would support the Tribal Farm Committee moving forward with something like that, a plan to grow whole foods and start a conservation plan, possibly on some property that the tribe owns.
That's a great question. Absolutely. I would be in support. I've been a pastor at Tutuila Presbyterian Church for 14 years, and every year we've leased out a lot of our 160 acres to wheat, and recently we've been discussing maybe changing that to be without chemicals, and I'm all for that. There's so much already in the air. There's so much in the water. And it affects our kids, grandkids, and we know, from all the nutritional labels and things, you see colors and dyes and all kinds of chemicals in our foods. I would definitely support it. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you for your contribution to this discussion. And I would wholeheartedly support that. I do believe as Native people, that is our right, and our ways of life is through our food and our land. And that is one way that we need to protect our food and our land and our people, is ensuring that the health of our people is good through our nourishment, and that we're not just letting anything on our land. We're not just letting anybody come on here and spray anything on the land or in the water, and it's protecting our health as indigenous people. And I really appreciate that comment, and that's something that needs to be brought up more often so that we can have that discussion rolling about even having our own food out here, growing our own food, and providing for our own people. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That's a great question. I appreciate that. I do believe that hasn't the Teacham Conservation District just received a grant for $10,000 to help support that kind of deal? I've met with some of the Teacham conservation people through the Elders Committee and talked with them and talked about community gardening. And I was saying I'd like to see like a 160-acre plot, you know, for growing our own food for our own tribal members here. You know, make it, you know, we're growing cabbage and beets and all that stuff instead of relying on the food sovereignty program to bring us those kinds of foods and stuff. We could provide them ourselves if we farm our own and not just do this monoculture with the wheat, with the lands that we have available these days. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. That is an initiative that I would fully support because I feel like it's really important to our sovereignty here to provide our own food, especially healthy food to our elders and our youth. And I feel like that would also contribute to lessening our emissions with the wheat fields. And so I think that would be a really important initiative to support. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that snowball question. I say yes. I am a avid gardener, and I've been to the mixing of the soil and the under the fingernails, and it's great to still have some strawberries that I haven't picked because I see the red in them yet, and I got some purple ones too. But there's the feeling of that, and I live in a small place, so I can have just a little bag right there, and I know that there is that, and that dream of having a big commercial type of a thing and having somewhere to go to really appreciate the job. So I've been to those jobs, and I don't know if they're profitable, but it's just a great job to have, and that's why I think that we should encourage that. Thanks.
Question.
Alex Nilo, X1713. Do you know when the last time the BOT sought community input before finalizing a major policy, and how will you make that a consistent practice?
Thank you. No, I do not know when that had happened, and I've brought myself to these work sessions to learn more and try to ask the right questions to find out what I might want to know. And it is the honesty of, do I believe, and how can I contribute? So I really can't say how or why there was a cutoff from you wanting to know as well as I would like to know. Thank you.
For me, the one that I can think of is the Arrowhead's alcohol sales. That's the one that I can remember the last initiative to ask what the tribal members think about it. And I think that is really important, especially on big topics like alcohol sales. And so promoting that and asking the general counsel what they feel and what they think is something that's important to me. And so inviting people to general counsel, but also going out and being in the community and finding people to talk to is something that I think us as members should be able to do. Thank you.
Yeah, for me, it's also the alcohol sales seems to be the last real major thing that I've noticed, and with the board actually going and sending it back to the general council, to the people to vote on, I think that's an appropriate action for anything major like that. I mean, it's the board's elected to represent the people, but I think they have to listen to the general council. The general council's the voice. We're the people. So unless we're listening to that and hearing that, then how do you decide whether you should make that decision for the people or not? There's times I think that there ought to be just, yes, you should be able to make those decisions. But when it comes to something real major, real meaningful like that, I don't see a problem with having it go to a vote to the people. Thank you.
And just like they said, I think the last time I heard of them asking for a collective vote was the alcohol sales. But I do believe that we as board of trustees, general council, there could be a lot more expanding when it comes to advertising when these meetings are happening. And, like Sierra said, getting out in the community more. And I feel like it should be mandatory for board of trustee members to go to community events and be available to tribal members to talk to them and let them know what's going on. There needs to be more transparency, and I do believe that, because oftentimes there's a lot of things going on that us as tribal members don't know until it's done. And to answer that question, as if I were to be, on the board of trustees, I would like us to be able to be transparent with the tribal members and be able to let tribal members know, because I know there's certain things we cannot, people can't disclose on committees, but I feel like that shouldn't be a problem. That I think people should be allowed to let tribal members know what's going on. Thank you.
Great question. But I think it was entered years ago in 1855 in a treaty. It says no alcohol to natives. And people seem to think that we want money, or there are those that want money over sobriety and fullness of life and life itself, instead of car wrecks and suicides and all the other terrible things that can happen when people take it upon themselves to drink and to drive. And we've lost a lot of beautiful souls through those things over the years. It came up in 2000, and I think voted it down. And just like I said, the board needs to be transparent with the general council. Thank you.
Great.
Rosenda Shippentower, X384. I have a question on the Yellow Hawk Health Clinic. And I'm not sure how many of you are aware when the health clinic, it probably was when we were down at the July grounds, but the board decided to move it out from under kind of the tribal side and make it be more under the health commission. And that's how it currently is today. And they do come to the board for, just to show them their budget and things like that. But as far as the policy decisions, the health commission has pretty much the power to do some of that. And so I want to know, do you feel that that was a good idea for the Board of Trustees to give Yellow Hawk that freedom? And are they doing what they should be doing? Or should we have some meetings or whatever to put it back under tribe rather than that independence.
Wow. I have not just personally heard of any conflicts with this. As the tribe grows, and Yellowhawk has certainly grown and answered many of the of our people, tribal members, and they just added on. They're constantly adding more staff to meet the needs and all components, A&D and counseling, dental, medical, administration and hiring. All those things to me seem to be working. But if there's and I understand that the CEO does works with Gary George and other administrative leaders. I'm just not aware of a lot of those difficult decisions. But if they were, the people should know about it and weigh in. Oops, and thank you.
I do agree with what a lot of what Lloyd said, but I also understand the concern about no longer being under the tribe and the tribal members, and how that could make tribal members feel that the integrity of Yellowhawk and their work for tribal members and for the tribe could be affected by no longer being under. And so I feel like that's something that we as tribal members and as community members should come back to and have a little bit more meetings and discussion about it and hear what the people think and what is being done versus what is not being done, because I know there has been a lot of efforts in Yellowhawk for sobriety, and I understand that a lot of the times with the way our government works, the way our tribe works, that nothing is promised and it takes time for different things to go through, and it's kind of a tricky in between. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to second guess prior boards' thought processes and stuff when they were making those decisions. I'm sure that what they thought at the time seemed to be a necessity. You know, you make those decisions out of what you believe. But I do think there's definitely a need for a form of the Health Commission. There's so much going on. It's grown so much from the days that we were down there at the July grounds, and the services we get have vastly improved. I know we all like to complain Yellowhawk this and Yellowhawk that, but they've really come a long ways, and they've helped me out a lot navigate some health issues in the past, and I think that we just need them to be transparent with the board, and most importantly, transparent with the community. Thank you.
For me, I work at Yellowhawk Tribal Health Center, and I've been there for 11 years now. And so I have an understanding of how Health Commission works, and each of those people are appointed by the board, and each of those people, and then there's also a board member that is representative of Yellowhawk. And so I think the communication between the two are actually really well, and I support Health Commission being on their own and using their expertise for our policies, for our procedures and our rules. Thank you.
Thank you. Respectfully, you're our elder. You may have discussed this before. Currently, how I see the Yellowhawk, I appreciate Yellowhawk for what they've given me and what I've given them. I've worked with them as well. But I've had IHS at Chemawa in high school, and in Portland was IHS there too, NARA. And so I was only allowed treatment because of my blood quantum. And today, if a tribal member is not allowed for this resource, is a great concern on the tribal level and on the other level. Thank you.
Thanks. Boots?
Thank you all again. Boots Pond, X1934. Question I have here, starting with Kyle, going down. What form of government do we need to strengthen bonds with, and how? State, tribal, federal, or city?
Ready to begin. Strengthening ties. I read in the news on my phone about Eastern Oregon, and they were sharing the mayor of Pendleton doing a proclamation for being on our lands. And to me, that was really nice. So we've begun closely at home. Our impact here, our influence here, has shared with the city. The city is in a state, and we're within this nation of tribal people. And so strengthening at home is what I believe. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. One thing that I believe is tribal solidarity, and so I think as our own tribe and the surrounding tribes, and then also the Oregon tribes, I think if we all can strengthen our bonds and our connections, that we as tribal people can start creating those bonds within the state and then move up from there. Thank you.
Yeah. Obviously, with our treaty, relationship with the feds is of utmost importance. We have to be able to get along with them to make sure we get a lot of our funding and direction and things like that. But I believe that intertribal relationships are very important as well. Working on the river and stuff, working with different monitors from the Yakima tribe, the Nez Perce tribe, Warm Springs tribe. Those things were really important, and be able to collect data and stuff for our fish from all of us working together. And that's one of those common goals between all of us. But we also rely on Pendleton a lot for a lot of our businesses, our Wild Horse, the different services that we get from them, and that's an important relationship, as well as these other nearby communities that we deal with frequently that frequent our businesses. So, thank you.
I do agree on, tribal, but I also do agree that's really important to build federal, strengthen our federal bond with the United States, because the federal government holds trust and treaty obligations to the tribe. And I do agree that with what's going on now with the government, the United States government, just think about how much it has affect not only our tribe, but many tribes across the country. And I think it's really important to get our voice on the federal level and strengthen that relationship, because whether we like it or not, us as tribal people and people on reservations, time and time again, since the beginning of history, we have been affected by the federal government. And it's our responsibility as tribal people, as indigenous people, to get up there and let our strength and our voice be heard on the federal level, because that's ultimately who is making the decisions when it comes down to us and what is going to happen to our people, our land, and our housing. Thank you.
That's a good question. I came up, been thinking about kind of what I'm about, and I'm about being resilient together. We all know our history. Most of us know about the treaty and sovereignty and maintaining that into the next 7 generations. I would think that the federal relationship needs to be always strengthened and always ready to know what might be coming down the pipe. With this current administration, there's I believe will be more threats to our sovereignty. When I was education director and youth services manager, I did go to the government meetings for education cluster with the state of Oregon, and but I would prioritize the federal and then the state, and I have to stop. Thank you.
Derek Quimps, X2656. My question is, it's about everybody that knows me and know I'm an advocate for language. What is your thoughts on the language that is disappearing with the next generation?
Thank you. In 1997, I began as education director. We had a budget of $700,000. I grew that to $2.1 million. The language program had several, 9 elders at the time. All of them are gone. And they did a great job of documenting the language with Dr. Noel Road. And they would always be talking and remembering phrases and stories, and it was vital and important. And Thomas Morningow was the manager. Mildred was there. Fred came on later, and now it's Fred and others continuing the language, as you know. And the Head Start kids came in and visited them back then, and I just believe it's necessary.
I'm concerned about the language loss because without our language, without our first foods, without our culture, who are we as a people? And I do agree that that should be a priority when it comes to us as tribal members. And what makes us tribal members is our language and our ways of life. And I think on the level, it kind of is not only just an issue for the board or anybody in particular. I know it's kind of an issue when it comes to parents and interacting with their children, or just, I don't think, that's kind of a hard question because it kind of starts in the household. How do you get into the household? And there is language classes being offered, and there is the Umatilla and Nez Perce language class at Nikiawe. And I know that at Kaiwa, the kids are working on language. So what are we as tribal members going to do to ensure that the language is being passed down in the household? And I think that's kind of a direction we should go as a community, and how we're going to make it so that children and the youth are comfortable to come to us as adults and as elders to ask questions. Thank you.
I don't know if it's my generation or what, but I didn't learn much of the language. I still don't, admittedly, know not near as much as I would like to. And I believe that the language is something that needs to be preserved. Long time ago, I served on one of the education committees, and I talked about how it was so tough that our students would have to go to school at high school and stuff and be required to learn Spanish or learn French or anything. And at the same time, our language is sitting over here getting lost, My grandpa had the language beat out of him. He was scared to teach it because he wanted to save everybody the trouble. And I think we need to work and feel comfortable to be able to bring our language back and preserve it. It's who we are. It's our culture. It's, us. So, thank you.
Good question. I know for a lot of us, language is so important, and so I feel like with all of us in this initiative, it could be propelled to the front. It could be prioritized. And by doing that, we prioritize our elders and we prioritize our youth, because the quickest way for all of us to learn language is from our kids. They come home and they share it with us, and it flourishes with them. And as soon as we can get it to them and enhance it, then the more we can learn as adults too. Thank you.
Mishnah Misha, Nichnamwa, Kinupa, Wanapam. It's just a way of being together with us. You know, it's like, what I'm saying is that you river people look good to me. But if I was in the class, it would have been broke down more. And to convey who we are to each other as Indian is by our words that were given to us. And I appreciate the class or apps to search out how I would like to say things into token. And at that same time, I'd like for you to understand. So we have to work together. Thank you. Katsuyaya.
We're getting close to 7:05 is our close. I've got 2 people in queue. Here's one.
Kathleen Elliott, X727. I'm not sure if we have enough time for everyone to answer this, so we'll ask Sierra. Can you tell us the difference between a treaty tribe and the executive order and restored tribes?
A treaty tribe is a tribe that negotiated with the United States to have a treaty, and restored tribes are tribes that maybe had one and it diminished and was not removed. It was removed, and that's my answer. Thank you.
May Hufford, X904. I wanted to ask the question about what do you think of the committees and commissions that we have already existing, and how could they be more functional to help you if you were elected? Right, you know, in my opinion right now is that there just seem to be a token committee. Well, some of the commissions have some authority, but not, you know, you don't know how well it's taken. And then the committees themselves, I'm not sure how anybody hears their voice at the board level. So I just wonder what you're thinking about it and your thoughts of how it could be. You know, those people are getting a per diem or a stipend every month. How are their opinions being used by the Board of Trustees?
Thank you for that question. I've been wanting to ask that question as well. I've been on a couple of these committees where I felt like it's been personal rather than business. And when we divide each other like that, it's toxic. And when it's in committee level, we do have the board that we can go knock on the door to, and I've tried. So I'm not on a committee. I have not reapplied to these committees. And I know that they're here. And I encourage people to be on a committee. Thank you.
For me, I would say that the board should have more presence in these committees and commissions. And then also, I know that they report out and to the board, and I think that us as a board or as a member on the board would need to be more involved in these committees and commissions by showing up and being there. Thank you.
Yeah, I really think one of the more important committees that we have is our Fish and Wildlife Committee, which has a lot to do with us exercising our treaty rights and where we can go hunt, where we can go fish, seasons and things that, you know, we need to be responsible in making. And the work they do with other ODFW, NFFS, and NOAA, and all the state biologists and everything to help make the decisions they need to make to allow us to hunt in Montana or to fish down below Bonneville or create a commercial fishery or, whatever it is, our hunting and making sure that we're not over harvesting, watching our fish numbers, things like that. And then, of course, we've got things like land acquisition, I think, is another important committee. The tribal resources. Anyway, thank you.
I actually currently serve on one of the committee commissions, and that's something I kind of asked myself. And one thing I kind of took note of that I think could help is, public tracking systems, a feedback loop, and open door policy. And I know that's some things that are implemented through the Board of Trustees and the tribe. Because, I believe transparency builds trust. And when community members can see how their committees work, impacts real policy, participation grows. So I just feel my main thing is transparency, of course, with the relationship between the Board of Trustees and the committees and commissions, and ensuring that what is being done is thoroughly sought after and seen by the Board of Trustees. And that there has to be some sort of streamlined communication between all the committees, commissions, between each other and the Board of Trustees. Thank you.
That's a very good answer. I have served, let me see, maybe 19 years or so, reporting from the administrative side on grants, on contracts, the education department, Head Start, the old recreation program, Title VI program. And it seemed like when we reported to the Education and Training Committee and the Parent Policy Council, it's also a very important committee required by the Head Start federal grant. Anyway, it just didn't quite seem that a lot of the information got to the board. And when we reported out, that's when the board had questions. But during the meantime, when our board liaison was there, it didn't seem to be effective. Sometimes they wouldn't show. Had other important things to do. But anyway, thank you.
I think that wraps up the portion of the at-large candidates. I'd really like to thank the 10 candidates who did come this evening to share information with you, and of course the General Counsel for being here to ask the questions. I believe there are 17 total at-large candidates. Is that right? So 10 of the 17 made it tonight, and a lot of people can't, have other obligations. So, but anyway, thank you guys so much. In about 5 minutes, we'll kick off the next group, and that's General Counsel, Vice Chair candidates, Boots Pond and Don Sampson. the general council chair candidates, Kathleen Elliott, Lindsay Watchman. Also at 6 o'clock, we will do the group of BOT treasurer candidates. And at 7 o'clock, we will have the chair candidates. Those who completed the survey or RSVP'd are on our list. So you may see some names missing. I don't see too many new council members, general council members here, so I won't go over all of the ground rules. Everybody's doing good, being respectful, and that's basic, common sense. Our candidates, they have 1 minute to respond to your question. You have 30 seconds to ask your question, and our candidates have 1 minute to respond. It's been pretty good at letting the candidates answer, both candidates answer your question. Unless you want to just ask one candidate specifically, just announce that the question is just for one or the other. Our timekeepers, are they ready? I think we can go ahead and we'll have candidates introduce themselves. Don, you have 1 minute to give an introduction, and his information is included in the survey packet that was handed out and also online. And then Boots will have 1 minute to do an introduction as well.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you. Really excited that we're having this forum here to listen to all the candidates, not only just me, but Boots and hopefully Michael Ray, others that are here. Really excited to be back and try to help the tribe serve in some capacity as Vice Chairman, General Counsel. It's a very important role. I did this when I was 33, quite a few years ago. I'm 64. Served as Chairman of the board with many of the board members who are in here today, as well as Executive Director. So very glad to be here. And particularly, I think, important that we, again, amplify the voice of the General Counsel, making sure that we're involved not only in just big decisions, but also bringing together regular information to the community so that we actually get votes here and the board can follow those votes wherever possible. So I think that's an important part of the work that we do as the General Counsel, and I hope to serve in that capacity and give Boots props for also running, as well as Michael Ray. That's all. Thanks.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Boots Pond. My Indian name is Tuelka Tamina, which translates to Heart of the Enemy. I was a current Board of Trustees member at large from 2019 to 2023. Currently, I am the chair of the Education and Training Committee, and I am running for General Counsel Vice Chair. And I think for this race, it's probably the most cordial one between me, Don, Michael Ray. I think we're all just in it. I'm going to speak for them, all three of us, but we're just in it to, serve. We want to do our best in this role because we feel like this is a role that will have a lot of advocacy when it comes to the decisions made. Not a lot of voting power, just to let everyone know out there, but there is a lot of influence that we're still able to carry, and I hope that we can do the best we can for all of our community in and outside the reservation. Thank you.
First question, anybody?
Andrea Hall, X1009. So do you think the number of board members is sufficient? Too much? Too many? What are your thoughts?
Thank you for the question. I always thought about that when it came to a hard number of what we have, 9 voting members to vote on the policies that we have. Yes, it could be extended, or yes, it could be shortened. Definitely, it's almost at a sweet spot, I would say, where it is currently with 4 board members and our 4 officers, and then the ex officio with the General Counsel chair. But I mean, if you want to boost it up, it still has to be an odd number for voting to even out. So 11 could be that number, but I think 9 is a pretty good number for the voting power for the Board of Trustees to pass these policies.
Well, I've looked at tribes, and of course, many of you, Yakama Nation has 14 members on their council. the Coeur d'Alene has 5, and they're both effective. I think we could get by with 5 if that's something the membership's interested in. And I think that we also need to consider extending the terms from 2 years to 3 years, perhaps. You know, people are talking about staggered terms as well. And you know, we used to have 1-year terms, and so we staggered the terms. We made them 2-year terms, and now we're considered a number of times 3-year terms. And I think we need to consider that, not only staggered 3-year terms, but also reducing it to 5 members. It's something that at least we could put up for a vote and see what people think about it.
My name is DRC Abraham. I have a question about, there is a true green carbon market out there, and some of that would be like applying compost to farmland and organic waste management. And so I'm wondering if you guys support that?
Absolutely. I'm familiar with the carbon markets that are out there, not only just in the U.S., but internationally. I think we really need to look at how we manage our resources, our forest lands, our ag lands, our wetlands. All of those are potential for carbon market. You know, we have 10,000 acres over in Washington, and it's something we ought to consider at Wanaka as well, is that we can produce and store carbon, and we should get the benefit of that. And I think Warm Springs, I happen to work with Warm Springs. They did 22,000 acres on the east side of Mount Jefferson of their forest lands. They put that into a carbon market in California, made about $25 million, and that benefited the tribe. So definitely very much in support of looking at these carbon markets for the tribe.
Yes, I do think farming overall is an underrated economy that we could go and burst into. Especially, you know, I think all of us, I mean, for me and Don, we definitely have that push for that. Lisa Gonwellis, board member at large, currently is the member that's spearheading everything when it comes to farming, and she educated me a lot when it came to the health of our soil. And the soil we have around here is kind of dead, and what can we do to, you know, amp that up to make sure that we could be thriving, and how we can give back with the lands we have currently. So definitely that's something that we should definitely have a push in. I am all for that. Agree with Don.
In the back. I know.
Alex Nilo, X1713. Can you name a recent general council motion the BOT hasn't acted on? What should have been done? And then as a chair, how will you make sure due process and accountability actually happens?
Alex, you've had a lot of good questions tonight, so I'll give you props, and that's definitely a good question when it comes to what's been on deck. So again, probably everyone should know with the most recent special general counsel that came to be with Little Turtles and early education, that's something that has been on the, you know, it's been there for a long time, since the start of January, where that issue really came to light. And so for us, I know, and I'm going to speak again for Don and Michael Ray, because I know they have the best interests at heart to have this push. For us, we need to definitely have more transparency of when we're going to have these meetings, instead of having it last minute and having that education out there. So I definitely, that's one of the things that has definitely really been there.
Yeah, I didn't listen in on that conversation, although it's been ongoing for some time in terms of Little Turtles. I know that we've had a number of issues that have come up to this general council, and one that was really important, which was the residency of a board member and whether that person was qualified to serve on the board. That motion came before the general council, was passed by 115 to 3 or 4, went to the board looked at it, decided not to proceed and follow that, and then it went into litigation. But those are things that where perhaps the general counsel makes a policy position, and there's a number of opportunities for us to do that more and more. We can present resolutions here at general council, and we can forward those to the board and get as many votes behind those with very specific actions. If we do that, then we can have very actionable results. Sometimes we have just a general motion in favor or against, but I think we can start using resolutions as a means to clarify specific actions and timeframes that we want the board to act on. Because that's within the power, at least to get reports from the Board of Trustees.
Any more questions? Oh, Rosenda was fast with her hand there. So.
Thank you. Rosenda Shippentauer, X384. And this concerns the Board of Trustees, but it's a question that I just want to ask of the ones that are running for something in the General Council. And it has to do with salaries, money. And Don probably remembers, but way back, the board members, treasurer, secretary, and vice chair, and of course the chair, earn more money than the members at large. And I'm not sure of the exact figures, but later on, it was changed so that the members at large and all the officers were paid the same, but just the chair had the higher salary. And I feel that the officer positions have a lot more work to do. The treasurer, the secretary, the vice chair, not so much. But I know we're talking service here, you know, everybody's got to do service, you know, but people have to live too, and they take time out of their life to run and serve. And so I just wonder, what do you folks, do you think that's a good deal, or do you prefer like it used to be? And I brought this up to General Counsel and kind of got roasted, but yeah, so that's okay. But I just you know, I think that those who have served as officers, Kat knows, you know, how much work the secretary does and the treasurer does, and you know, it's just and you go along and you're in a way you're kind of doing a whole lot of extra duty work for the same amount of money that you would have made if you would have tried for member at large. So do you folks have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, good question, Rosenda, and I think it's a good point. I mean, I remember way back when Woody was the chairman, and he was paid half-time, and Rosemary was the secretary, and she got paid half-time, and everybody else was voluntary. And it's changed a lot, and there was a time where, you know, the officers got paid more, but there was a time where they're making $50,000. You know, that's not a living wage anymore, and we have people who work in the organization making a lot more than our elected officials. I do think in the Constitution, as you're right, there are very specific delegated responsibilities of the officers, particularly the treasurer, as well as the secretary, and that does entail much more work. The at-large members still do a lot of work, though. But so I think a salary structure that represents the amount of constitutional delegation of authority to them, we should increase the pay, number one, collectively overall. I think we also should increase the qualifications for board members. You know, we have a $500 million business government that we run. And a long time ago, we used to be a $50,000 a year business operation. So things have changed a lot. So qualifications, number one. Increased pay for the board, number two.
Yeah, Rosenda, along with Alex, great questions tonight. And so with that, being a former Board of Trustees member at large, yeah, and then being out of it currently, I do not envy the work that everyone does on the board. There's a lot that goes their way. But as what you're talking about, a structure when it comes to Board of Trustees members' pay and then the officers' pay, yes, that's something that should be definitely discussed. I myself, when I first got on, I got pushed on to the Board of Trustees secretary work because our Board of Trustees secretary at the time had health issues. So I was there, and there was a lot, but it got me going, and it got me, really helped me push, get an idea of what the board is actually like with that work. And it was fun. I liked doing the Board of Trustees secretary work, but it was a lot. Same with treasurer, vice chair, chairman. There's a lot of things that they get delegated to go on. So there should be that structure that should be discussed.
Andrea, you know who I am. So a footnote to that is about the severance package and what your thoughts are. I feel like, you know, a lot of the discussion is, do you have to run, but you don't really want to run, but you have to in order to get a severance package. So any thoughts on clarifying that first, and then your opinion?
Yes, it should definitely be clarified, and then there should be definitely a lot of parameters when it comes to how you get that severance package. I feel when a board member has served a few terms, yes, and they get ousted, they get the severance package that helps them, you know, move on for the next 3 months or so. And so with that, I definitely for having that severance package looked at when it comes to, you need to probably run, or if you've served enough terms, then maybe you should get that severance package. If you're just one and done, then maybe that needs to be looked into, because you know you haven't served in that capacity for a while. But there's a lot of variables with that, but ultimately, yeah, the severance package is beneficial to help out with the next step of, you know, maybe retiring or maybe finding a new position.
I say no on the severance package. Hey, just kidding. No, I think it's a good idea. I mean, I think we need to go 3-year terms. I mean, imagine somebody comes out and just said, hey, I've been working in the organization for years. I think I can serve. I've got the experience. And they're coming out of a job, and they're going to come back, and they're going to get job certainty for 2 years minimum. And then what are you going to do if you don't get reelected? Maybe there's a reason, whatever it might be. So I think the severance is reasonable. I think the 3-year terms is important. And I think we got to bump up the pay of the board. I mean, it is around the clock. You get calls in the middle of the night all the time. You're walking down Safeways or Walmart, and you're going to get, hey, I got to ask you a question. It happens all the time. So you're working around the clock. So I would say that the severance package is good. I think 3-year terms at minimum, and also we should increase the pay, but also set some qualifications. That's my perspective about it.
Candace Patrick, 1606. I just have a question if you would be in favor of having all the GC positions be paid full-time positions.
The GC officers, I think that, I mean, the way that it's structured right now, we have 9 board members, of course, includes the GC chair. The officers are working probably at minimum once a month, but occasionally they have meetings to talk about agenda, prepare and plan for stuff here. I don't believe that they're full-time positions, in my opinion. I've seen the work that they do. They can come in. I think they ought to maybe increase the stipend. I'm not sure what the stipend is, but they don't nearly as much time. They're not full-time as the board members are. So maybe bump the stipends up for the GC if they're doing a lot of prep work and they can justify additional time to do prep work for general council meetings, then I think that's fine. I think the other part is if they're actually delegated or authorized to, on behalf of the board, to do specific actions or on behalf of the general council, then that's additional time that they're committing to it. So full-time, no. Increased stipend and benefits to them, yes. And that's not just because I'm running for vice chair either. I'll put a disclaimer on that.
So yeah, with having the GC positions be paid full-time, that would definitely have to be a general council decision, general council body decision, if it were ever to occur like that, to extend. Like I said, the number I felt is the sweet spot is 9. But as what Don's saying, there's not a lot of duties currently present for the other officer roles, but there could be if we extend not just once a month general council meetings, maybe bi-weekly. and then that would give enough work for the secretary, for the vice chair, the interpreter to, make sure that there is a full agenda, that there's work being done, that the people are heard. Maybe have general council meetings off hours. That's something for us to consider, and maybe that's where we can finally, get the rest of the general counsel officer positions to, get paid fully. But agree with Don with the workload currently. It's what we do. We show up and we advocate outside of our position, but we try to do the best we can with with the work that's given to us.
Alex Nilo, X1713. If a BOT member or department head attempts to limit what can be discussed in general council, how would you respond?
Yeah, again, Alex, great questions overall tonight. And with that, for us as, we probably have to discuss this with our general council body, definitely with the chair. And, for us here at the general council meetings, this is where the opinions are supposed to be heard, where everything's supposed to be spoken. And we're supposed to hear all that with all the concerns and issues that are coming by. So when it comes to another BOT member or even staff saying, point of order, I mean, in some cases, there's people that go off the topic, but when it comes to the main issue and how you stay focused with that issue, they have to continue on. And so for us, I am definitely for having that, the opinion expressed fully, and then that's something we need to discuss, prep beforehand. And definitely that's for the chair to handle, but then the vice chair, if there's no chair, we got to take that once that issue, that problem arises.
Do you mean trying to cut off somebody in the general council meeting and expressing their opinion?
Internal.
Yeah. Oh, internal. So you're a general council member, maybe you're an employee, and you have an opinion, and you're having a board member or a staff that's trying to cut you off from making that opinion heard? Or I'm not maybe understanding the question.
So within your role, if there is limitation being reported to you on what should not be discussed, how would you respond to that?
Okay. So if it was discussed in the general council meeting and there was a board member present who tried to limit the discussion by any particular member of the general council, I would say, point of order, BS, you can't do that. Everybody has equal right as any board member in general council to speak their mind and give their point. Now, the general council chairman has the ability to conduct the business and call point of order and allow that person to complete whatever statement they want to make, and that's fine. No staff should be doing that as well. So I think in that case, if I'm the vice chairman and the chairman doesn't step up, I'm going to advise them, look, we need to call point of order, allow the person to speak, make their statement, and not be interrupted by a board or a staff person.
Andrew, do you have a follow-up? And please raise your hand if you have a question.
Just a clarification on the last comment I had about severances. The board procedures requiring somebody who really doesn't have the heart for it, but they're looking at the incentivizing of the severance package. I just want to know your opinion on that, or if that clarification for that.
So you're saying incentivize the severance package is an incentive for them to run? I'm not sure what you're saying.
I guess it's a question. If you are an incumbent, are you required to run again to get your severance package? Even though you really don't want the package or the role, you just want the severance package.
Well, if you get booted, you get the severance package, right? Isn't that the way it works? Kat, you know this, huh? Yeah. So regardless, if you don't want to run, you don't have to run. So and if that's the situation, I guess. I don't have it in front of me. I helped write the board procedures code. I don't recall exactly what it is. Maybe other board members know.
Overall, with my feeling on that question there, Andrea, so when it comes to the severance package, like I said, a lot of variables come into play, but when it comes to it, a incumbent not running, and then should they get that severance package? They're retiring, yeah. If they're not running just because they want to move on with a different career, yeah. because it gives them that time. That's just my thought process at the moment. But it would take a lot of heavy consideration. Again, it's something that needs to be brought to General Counsel to really look at to make sure that this severance package is fair. General Counsel.
May Hufford X904. I have a question in regards to whether you would consider expanding general counsel to give us a better voice to the board. Right now, I personally feel like, I come to general counsel sometimes, and it's, I've asked it to maybe move to a different time because sometimes during work hours, it's not most convenient for me. When it used to be at Yellow Hawk, I felt like we were a whole family that went there and, contributed and participated. I don't feel like that when it's during work hours and I can't leave my position and to come down here. But, one thing is I think general counsel and the voices that I hear sometimes of those people that are having problems and want to bring it and voice it here, it makes my heart bleed that we're not doing something different for them. So I would really like to have some kind of consideration, and would you go along with that, of expanding general counsel's role?
Coco, I'm sorry that I messed up last term with not signing on my my ballot. I had a battle plan when it came to the general counsel chair role, and there was a lot of things that I was taking in consideration when it came to having more opportunities to speak, when it came to having general counsel after hours at a different time, at a different day, maybe weekends, more of them. And so for that, it sucks because I had that, and I was really motivated during that time to do all that. And so for us in this capacity, I would advocate for that, definitely to speak with whoever gets voted on as the general counsel chair to ensure that maybe there's more opportune time for those opinions or those issues to be heard. So definitely for it.
I would agree that we need to have expand the time. I remember we used to have these down at Yellow Hawk, and they would go all night till midnight. I remember sitting there. My grandma Carrie was interpreter. I was asleep at 10 o'clock, and so yes, definitely, I think that's important. There's two powers of the general counsel that are important. Number one, to call for reports, to demand a report from the board. Number one, and to recall members of the Board of Trustees or General Counsel. So those are the two key powers. Should we change the level of report requirement, or should we have the General Counsel approve annual budgets of the tribe? We have a $500 million budget. You get maybe 2 times to look at the budget, and it's a month before. I know this because I've been involved in this for a number of years. What if we came to the General Counsel and required the General Counsel to approve the annual budget of the tribe? That is a huge power that we've got to consider. So, I mean, it's getting more and more, and we've got to start looking at this much closer. So, maybe expand beyond just demand reports, approve budgets, and perhaps other actions. So, that's a really good question, and I think that creates a big leverage for the General Counsel that the board would have to follow.
Any other questions? Wow, those are really good questions, though. How much more time do we have? We're going to wrap up in about 5 minutes, so, okay.
No hard questions, Jill. Yeah, we're done. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Jill Marie Gavin, X2748. Obviously, the question is for both of you guys. What do you think the importance is of living a life culturally within the community when you're an elected official? And if you're not living that way, how do you think it can affect your work?
Good question. It is important. A lot of people don't live on the reservation, move here, and learn a lot and begin following our cultural ways. Other people grow up in it, so I think it's important. Particularly, I've seen other people who really weren't raised on the res come back and learn that, and then become elected officials, and I think it makes them more effective. They understand what's going on. They understand, the importance of everything that we do in our ceremonies, in our longhouse, in the community. So I think it's very relevant. Imagine if we had nobody on the board that had any of that experience. That would be very cautious about the decision making of the board. So I think it's important to have that. And I look back at some of the board members that I served with when I was 28, and a lot of those old timers are gone. I look at old timers and I look at Kat, Rosenda, and others. But the lessons I heard from Frenchie Half Moon, or a bunch of other elders, I mean, those are invaluable. And I was very honored to be able to work with them. And I was very scared to ask a whole lot of questions, but I learned a lot from them serving with them.
In and outside the board, I try to stay in touch with the culture as much as I can. And what helped me was when I first got on the board, there was a lot of time that was available for us to attend a lot of these ceremonies, attend a lot of the funerals to help the families move on. And I got to thank my board time for that, because it got me into it. And so hopefully with the new board of trustees members, the general council officers, that they at least consider taking that time to help with stay in touch with the culture. And that's for me, just to everyone, and then everyone coming in the future, just it helped me being on the board. So definitely trying to live those two lives, it's tough. There's a lot of time we have to dedicate as government officials, but we should make time for our culture as well.
I forgot to acknowledge Helen too. She's been here. She's been here longer than any of us. So when I looked at some of the elders, Helen's been doing this stuff, running this board for years, and I was just a kid, and she taught me way back in the day. So I got to acknowledge Helen.
Unless anybody has any more burning questions, we'll wrap it up and thank Boots and Don for being here. We have had a request for a drop-in for tomorrow that wasn't on our list, and that's one of the vice chair candidates, BOT vice chair candidates. So we will try to add that for tomorrow. A lot of people put in their surveys and were here on time and followed the process that we laid out. So they got first pick, of course. So we'll see if we can get other folks in it if they want to drop in tomorrow. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you. And please pick up after yourselves.
Test. And I believe that the stream we had on my YouTube channel, once I hit stop streaming, it'll upload to the YouTube channel. So whoever wasn't here should be able to watch the video there as well. So.